this is kind of funny. This is kind of funny. I also have a video to show everybody, but so Alex Jones' Infowars had to be auctioned off because, you know, he had that big settlement where he has to pay $1 gazillion to the families of the Sandy Hook kids who were massacred because he routinely defamed them. And there was even one of these, like one of the parents of a kid who died at Sandy Hook who ended up killing himself because he got harassment from Alex Jones fans.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a story a lot of people don't remember, but it's true. He has this huge settlement that he has to pay, and he basically hasn't been paying it. And so what happens in a situation like that is they could just come seize your assets. And that's exactly what happened here. And they auctioned off Infowars, and one of the funniest possible outcomes happened. The Onion bought Infowars. When I first saw this, it was like one of those breaking news accounts.
Yeah.
And I read it. I woke up and I read it, and I was like, that's not right. No, I don't believe that.
You know, it's funny because I had the same. I was doing the show and some headline popped up and my brain just dismissed it.
Yeah, it was like,
I didn't even like process it. It just got completely thrown in the garbage basket immediately.
Yeah,
like, there's no way that happened.
That's fake news and somebody ran with it. That was my immediate thought.
Or like this is literally an Onion article.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like that's your brain kind of goes there, but the more I kept scrolling and the more outlets were saying, I was like, oh my God, it's real. This is real. So we have Alex Jones on the air at Infowars for the last time, I guess, talking about this. Watch.
So we are here on air right now, and I want to see the documents. I want to see the court order. The Onion buys Alex Jones Infowars at auction with help from Sandy Hook families. So they're buying a company to get the equipment, the name, and money that's in Infowars to then give it to themselves. But it's not about the money. So, again, it's insane. When I go to these court hearings, these people are there, particularly Connecticut, they just smile at me and like wait by the door and like, it's like, and it's like they live on me and talk about me, and I'm their persecutor because I'm famous and successful and barely ever talked about them, so they're attached to me.
So that last part, the FBI and the CIA cooked all this up. I'm so fucking sick of this guy because his theory was it was a false flag. It was a hoax. The Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax, and the reason it was a hoax is because the Obama administration wanted to confiscate everybody's guns. So they cooked up this fake mass shooting where all these kids die when they didn't, and then they were going to come take everybody's guns. Well, Alex, they didn't come take the guns. You were just wrong. There's no world in which you could be correct. Like, the furthest thing they even proposed was, like, universal background checks and high-capacity magazine bans.
Yeah.
And that didn't get anywhere. So at some point, you have to say, the thing that I said was the motivation for it didn't even come to fruition, so I'm fucking wrong. But a guy like him never, ever, 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 ever admits wrongness. Now, the other thing I should point out is they're going to use this. The Onion says they're going to use this to turn Infowars into a parody of itself, mocking the, quote, weird internet personalities who peddle conspiracies and health supplements.
That's a beautiful,
and the other thing is,
beautiful idea.
Yeah, and I think there's also, I guess, like, they're going to advertise on it too, and the advertisements are going to be that, like, you know, groups that are like against gun violence that advertise on it or something like that. So I read that as well. So yeah, I mean, this is master troll level. I absolutely support it. And if he didn't want to be in this position, Alex Jones, then he should have fucking paid him. But he's been hiding his money for this whole time.
It's honestly beautiful. Like the Onion and Sandy Hook families coming together to buy Infowars.
This fucking liar's platform.
Incredible.
He's just going to change the name. You know this, right? Like, he's just going to change the name and keep doing the show?
Yes, of course. Okay. Yeah, I know Alex Jones is not gone from
he's not
public
gone.
discourse.
He's not going to go lay in the corner. Right?
Yeah, but it's still, it is an incredibly beautiful ending to, like, an incredibly ugly episode from him. And the Onion, like, it is incredible to me how they have kept their edge. And they still, one of the biggest videos about the election was, like, this Onion video making fun of the way that the election analysis like slices and dices the electorate and looks at these different demographic groups and whatever. Like, their headlines still hit, and they've gone hard when it comes to Israel. Like, they they have kept relevance and kept their edge all of these years through all of these administrations. I'm old enough to remember when the Onion actually put out like a newspaper that you could subscribe to and you could actually like hold and read. And so glad to see it.
Yeah,
very glad to see it.
That's awesome stuff. All right, so now you and I have been talking quite a bit about what went wrong for the Democrats and what they could do to improve it. But what I find particularly curious is that some of the people who had a direct line to the Kamala campaign, who had a lot of their ideas implemented, people like Matt Iglesias and David Shore, he's now emerged as one of the most loud voices, where he's like, no, you got to do this. This is what you got to do. Bro, you just got the platonic ideal of the campaign you wanted.
They already did all the shit you wanted.
Yeah,
and
like,
it failed.
And why are you pretending like that's not the case? Like, why are you pretending like that's not the case? You got almost everything you wanted. And so I find it very bizarre that he's just like, you know, I'm just going to move ahead and act like I'm not in part to blame for the direction of the campaign. And so he released this list. He calls it, ready for this? You're going to just, right at the title, you're just going to be like, fucking eye roll, right? 9 principles for a common sense Democrat comeback. Like, so his thing now is like, we're going to common sense Democrat.
I hate it already.
Like, that's, yeah. I love the implication from people. Like, when people say it's common sense, the implication is like, everybody else is a fucking idiot and I'm the only one with all the answers. So what I think is common sense, what you think is dumb, right? And it's like, are you even trying here? Are you even trying? Okay, so I'll give you the list. Ready? We can judge them as we go here.
Okay.
Number 1, economic self-interest for the working class includes both robust economic growth and a robust social safety net.
Okay.
Thoughts on that one?
I mean, sure.
No, even that one I have a problem with.
Really?
I'm serious. Even that one I have a problem with. Because it's a misleading, it's consultancy speak for saying like you have to still prioritize the stock market being high and GDP
tax
growth.
cuts and whatever.
And the social safety net part is like, yeah, like we do need a social safety net, but that's almost like an afterthought too. The stonks need to go up, right?
Right. And it's also like, again, how is that different from what Kamala did?
It's not.
She ran on the fucking opportunity economy.
Right, which was probably one of the worst parts of her campaign, I would say. Yeah.
I mean, she had some good economic policies, but she also decided to lean into like, small business is my passion.
Right,
you know?
yeah, and that part was cringe. It was cringe.
Yeah. And also, like, none of it cohered into, like, lady, I still don't know what you believe or what you're actually going to fight for. So, yeah, it's like, okay, that's what they did.
She believes in technocracy. That's what it is.
Yeah, and so does
Iglesias.
And
exactly.
so does he.
Yeah. All right, next one. This one's weird. The government should prioritize maintaining functional public systems and spaces over tolerating antisocial behavior.
It's not weird. That's like crackdown on homelessness. That's what that means.
The government should prioritize
That's what that means.
Maintaining functional public systems and spaces over tolerating antisocial behavior.
Yeah.
See, I read it more.
That means crackdown on homelessness, public drug use, like clean up the streets, tough on crime. That's what that means.
What that means.
That's what that means.
I interpreted it more as him like calling antisocial behavior the stuff that is like left-wing critics say on Twitter. That's how I read that.
No, this is definitely about homeless people.
About anti-homelessness stuff.
And again, like there are like go look at Gavin Newsom, like personally raising homeless encampments. Go look at Kamala running as a cop.
Right.
And,
yeah.
Okay.
You got what you wanted.
You got it.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
Right. Yeah. How did that go?
Number 3, climate change and pollution more broadly is a reality to manage, not a hard limit to obey.
Oh.
In other words, like, do more market-based solutions.
So I guess common sense is not consistent with scientific consensus.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
If it's uncomfortable and it might be controversial, just ignore the science and just keep going and, you know, do a little, like maybe do a little plastic straw ban or something like that.
It's almost like he's saying these anti-climate science people and like pro-pollution people, they just won, so you have to move a little bit more towards them.
Yeah.
That's literally sounds like what the argument is.
That's his thing.
It's just so stupid to think that this race was purely an ideology thing, right? Like he's pretending the whole race is just like, bro, they read the list of Trump's policies and the list of Kamala's policies and they picked Trump's policies. Like that's not how it fucking works, you idiot.
Not how
we covered
works.
the story. In a blind test, 80% of the people picked Kamala's policies over Trump's policies. This is not just about policy. And his answers kind of like be even more like the New Democrats and Bill Clinton and triangulate even more. All right, I got more for you.
Okay.
Number 4, ready? We should, in fact, judge people by the content of their character rather than by the color of their skin, rejecting discrimination and racial profiling without embracing views that elevate anyone's identity groups over their individuality. Who the fuck ran against that idea? Who ran against it? Kamala never mentioned her race. She never mentioned her gender. She never did any political correctness bullshit or cancel culture bullshit. What are you talking about? They have this, like, straw lefty in their mind.
I know.
Left over from, like, 2015.
I know.
Some pink-haired college kid, and everything about their identity is based on, we're not that person. We're not, like, what are you doing?
The other thing that's, I mean, there's a few other things that are funny about that, which is that mode of politics came directly from Hillary Clinton. So it was not from the left. It was it was weaponized against the left to smear Bernie Sanders and his supporters as racist and sexist, you know,
breaking up the banks is going to end
racism. It's like, okay, so how's that racism situation going? Can we get like a check-in on that? So that's number 1. Number 2, I saw someone pointing out on Twitter, like, do you remember the 2020 DNC? Elizabeth Warren had Black Lives Matter spelled out in blocks behind her. Like, it was a woke fest. It was a woke fest. And Joe Biden won. So color me how during the campaign, during the peak of, like, you know, Democratic Party wokeness, somehow they still managed to win. But now Kamala Harris, when she does none of that, and even Democrats who were pretty woke, like AOC, even she has, like, chilled out on some of the, you know, woker language and whatever. Everybody got the fucking message about Latinx, okay? No one is saying that anymore. And yet it's still, they have to act like that's such a big problem because it's the only way they can really try to blame the left this time.
That's right.
When the left had nothing to do with this campaign.
It's insane.
Whatsoever.
It's insane. All right, more. He says, academic and nonprofit work does not occupy a unique position of virtue relative to private business or any other jobs.
This is...
Like, he's saying the same thing over and over and over and over, and the entire time it's wrong.
Right. And also, it's just so insular to think that's, like, an issue, that was an issue in this campaign, that they were too, like, into nonprofits. That's a very specific, like, Matt Iglesias complaint.
And by the way, Fareed Zakaria quote tweeted this and was like, some great ideas here. I hope they listen. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
They did listen. This is the campaign they ran.
All right, hold on. Ready for this? Ready for this? Politeness is a virtue, but obsessive language policing alienates more people and degrades the quality of thinking. Nobody did that. Literally nobody did that.
Nobody.
Kamala was out there running to the right on the border. Kamala was out there saying, I have a Glock. Like I said, she never mentioned her race. She never mentioned her gender. The only person that brought up race and gender was fucking Donald Trump. What are you talking about? What are you talking? There was no obsessive language policing. There was none of that.
Yeah, and also, like, okay, so if I were to steelman their case, they might be like, oh, the whole freak out over calling Puerto Rico an island of, like,
shut
trash.
the fuck up.
But it's also like, are you just supposed to sit down and shut up when something is just, like, blatantly disgusting and racist?
That's what they want.
And then the other piece of this is, okay, well, what did the Republicans do? Joe Biden, like, garbled out something that could sort of colorably be construed as calling Trump supporters garbage. And, they word policed the shit out of that, didn't they? On the right.
Right. Yeah.
Excessively word policed that.
Word policing works.
So it was like,
we should have been more pissed off about the Puerto Rico shit.
So when it was, you know, the disgusting Puerto Rico thing that was very clear and came on a night when there were, like, many more calling Kamala Harris, like, a prostitute and antichrist and what all this stuff is that. And it's like, oh, these people can't take a joke. Joe Biden says something completely and utterly unintelligible, and he's not even the one running for president. It was like, oh, how could you? Oh, my God. And now I'm going to dress up as a trash bag for Halloween, whatever. It's like,
They're so stupid because Donald Trump is the most arrogant, unhinged, and divisive political figure in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And the only logical lesson to take away, if you're being objective about this, is maybe Democrats need to be more arrogant and unhinged.
Well, that's the thing.
And they don't want to do it.
This, like, putting aside the specific bullet points here, Iglesias, David Shore, Jonathan Chait, the whole idea of popularism, wherein you just pull every issue, you figure out which ones are the most popular, and then in this sort of paint by numbers way, you highlight those things. Oh, you know, lowering the cost of prescription drugs is popular. We talk about that. Housing costs are a problem. Let's do some, like, neoliberal, okay, a tax credit there and whatever. We'll do that. And by going through that list and coming up with a laundry list, then you're going to come up with some sort of a coherent campaign vision that is going to resonate with people. And that is not how politics fucking works. Because if it did, Kamala Harris would be headed to the White House.
That's right.
If it did, Democrats would win in 40 out of 50 states. Because if you pull Kamala's positions and you pull Trump's positions, hers are overwhelmingly more popular than him on almost every issue. That is not how politics works. He has a story. He has a narrative. He has villains. He has heroes. He has a personality. He's entertaining. He's an asshole. He's divisive. He's controversial. Do you think that he focus group tested and like heat mapped his Arnold Palmer's dick? Like, do you think
Palmer's dick, folks. Big dick, big
Hannibal
dong.
Lecter or any of the other total insane craziness that he puts out there all the time? That is not how politics works. And if you can watch his campaign and then look at Kamala's, which was run in exactly the way they would want, with this philosophy of like, we're going to pick out the most popular things, we're going to avoid controversy, we're going to try not to be divisive, we're going to welcome in Republicans, we're going to have the coalition of Dick Cheney and Bernie Sanders and Taylor Swift and whatever. Like, if you look at that landscape and you still think, no, we need to paint by numbers harder. Like, we didn't capitulate hard enough to where the Republican positions are on a variety of issues. You have completely failed to understand what just happened and how people actually relate to politics.
Yeah, and here's a radical idea, too. Donald Trump ran an angry campaign. Angry, just full of revenge and retribution. Just, like, seething. His blood was boiling the entire time. The whole thing was like, we're going to go after my enemies. We're going to go after my enemies. And he won. And he won. Have you heard anybody say Democrats need to get angrier? Democrats need to want retribution against their enemies, right? Have you ever heard that? Nobody said that. And like you said, the big point is he has a story. It's an incorrect story, but it's a story. The reason the country's failing is because of these goddamn immigrants coming in, taking the tax money, taking your jobs, etc. It's the country's failing because of the Democratic elites. And he pointed the finger and people went, okay, there's a story there. Fine. The Democrats, the only person who has a story on the Democratic side is Bernie Sanders. And would you look at that? He was the last Democratic candidate that got people so excited that they would, put a bumper sticker on their car and would talk about him endlessly. And he had like an actual cult of personality in a sense, similar to how Donald Trump does. Democrats are afraid to have a candidate that inspires that kind of love and loyalty and devotion. And that's what you need in this era.
Yeah.
We're not going back to the old days. Ronald Reagan is dead and gone. Barack Obama is dead and gone in the sense that the politeness, the professionalism, the decorum, the idea of like morning in America and I will check the right boxes to make you think I'm going to manage this place effectively. People don't want an effective manager. They want a fucking sledgehammer to take down the whole system and rebuild it from scratch. That's how pissed people are. So you need to give them something that is angry, that has a narrative and a story. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine looking at a campaign where, like you said, he's talking about Arnold Palmer's dick. He's talking about Mike Tyson getting in the ring with Kamala Harris. He's talking about the immigrants eating the pets. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. Hannibal Lecter, the number of absurd things he said on a regular basis. And your takeaway is, which policy boxes should we check to take him down next time? It's like, are you on planet Earth?
No.
I'm not saying policy doesn't matter. I want a bold Democratic Party that stands for the correct policies, but that's not everything. That's why I've been saying we need a controversial, charismatic celebrity, because that fucking mattered to our country with, nanosecond attention spans.
Yeah.
That fucking mattered.
Yeah.
And none of that comes into play for him. It's just literally like, let's go right back to our fucking whiteboard and all the bad ideas we had before, let's just do those harder.
Yeah, and the fact that he is manifestly not doing the politics of like, let me poll test and focus group test every word that comes out of my mouth is a major part of his appeal. Because this whole thing of like, let me like analytically go to the public so that I can learn what my values are and what I care about it's gross. It feels gross, and voters can read that, and that's why they never thought that Kamala Harris stood for anything. That's why they don't really think the Democratic Party in general stands for anything at this point, because it is so much about just like pandering to what the poll numbers say versus having any sort of principle, let alone narrative. And now you see all kinds of people getting all amped up for the fucking Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom campaign. And it's like, you've learned nothing. You've learned nothing. Like, you're a little blow-dried, buttoned up, consultant prepped, you know, super smart, Ivy League educated person is not, it's not the ticket. It is not the thing. It is not what sells. And so, yeah, I just think they are dedicated to basically doing nothing and learning nothing and adjusting nothing.
Yeah, but, you know, Trump can drive this thing into the ground so hard and fuck up so bad that people are going to accept the blow-dried asshole. And that's like, we're stuck in the wilderness forever, as the saying goes, if that's the case, you know?
Yeah, no, so, I think it's entirely possible that the only thing they really do is just like, you know...
softer fascism, as you said the other day.
Yeah, kick trans people harder. You know, just completely, you know, they've already capitulated on immigration. They've already embraced that worldview and just, you know, pivot harder to the right and sort of solidify Trumpism as the dominant era of politics. So from, you know, New Deal era, which was a bipartisan affair, to neoliberal era, which with Bill Clinton becomes a bipartisan affair, to like Trumpism as a bipartisan affair is likely the direction they're going to go in.
That's right. Hey guys, so today on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, we talked to Juan David Rojas, who explained how we have only one party in the world that was able to hang on to power through COVID and after COVID. Throughout the world, every party got kicked out of power because everybody was pissed with how everything was going. One party was able to succeed. That is AMLO's party. AMLO is basically the Bernie Sanders of Mexico. Subscribe below on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, and you'll learn the lessons to take away as to how Democrats can and should copy AMLO to stay in power.